Anybody know this? Can you sing it with me? You are.
This is homecoming. I realize this, when you get home, that's when you kind of loosen your tie, right? So I'm going to just loosen my tie a little bit. I'm feeling at home this morning. And I'm wondering, have you heard of the meditation teacher Tara Brach? She's got some great podcasts out there. She's a insight meditation teacher. I listen to her podcast once in a while. There's some really good teachings in there. And she tells a story that I wanted to share with you about 3 guys who are stranded on a desert island, and they'd been there a long time, and they were really starting to get bored and hopeless. But they got lucky because they found one of those lamps that have a magic genie inside. Each one will get one wish. The first man said, "I miss my wife and my children so much, I just want to go home," and whoosh, he's transported home. The second man said, "Me too. I miss my dog and my work. I want to go home," and whoosh, he's gone. The third man looked around and he said, "I'm lonely. I want my friends back." Right, so the easy lesson here is if you ever are in that situation, go for the third wish. All right, but on a more personal note, have you ever wondered, what would I wish for if I could have anything I wanted in this life? Perhaps more money than you ever dreamed of, all the pleasures and security that money can buy, pay off those credit cards, take a trip around the world on your own private plane or yacht, live on the beach in an amazing home. Or would you wish for power? I mean, can you imagine right now with everything going on, if you had all the power that you wanted and needed to change the world? Or fame or prestige? Now, most of us already know that none of those things bring lasting happiness. Health matters, of course. But even the healthiest, wealthiest, most powerful people that I've known, they still wrestle with fear and doubt and loneliness. I was reading a book this week, thinking about this morning, by someone named John Hayes Nichols, and it's titled A Biblical Humanist Companion. So as a humanist, Nichols was wrestling with some of the different, in each chapter, some of the different Bible verses and what they mean to him now that he's a humanist and doesn't think in terms of God and the Almighty and those types of things. So in one of the chapters, he turns to the book of Ecclesiastes. If you know the book of Ecclesiastes, it's considered the pessimist. Ecclesiastes asks a lot of hard questions, and you'll know a number of the lines from Ecclesiastes because they've become a part of our culture. They're quoted by George Orwell, Thomas Wolfe, Shakespeare, John Steinbeck, Ernest Hemingway, George Bernard Shaw, Stevie Wonder, Pete Seeger, the Byrds, all the greats. So you've heard, for every season, turn, turn, turn. There's a time for every purpose under heaven. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. And there is nothing new under the, yes, you've heard it, under the sun. It says that it was written by a man who had everything he wanted. And yet he's very pessimistic. He says, whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. The writer says that he initially sought happiness through wisdom. It's an interesting idea. But he concludes, I have come to recognize that even this is just chasing the wind. Much wisdom, he says, much grief. The more knowledge, the more sorrow. So then he tries to explore pleasure. But he finds that pleasure is not enough to make him happy. So he explores riches. He writes that I did great things. I built myself palaces, planted vineyards and made myself gardens and orchards, planting every kind of fruit that exists. I had pools made. I amassed silver and gold. I denied myself nothing, and I refused my heart no pleasure. Only to conclude in the end, all I've toiled for and now bequeathed to my successor, I've come to hate. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity, he writes. For all his toil under the sun, what does man gain by it? He asks. Now, at this point, he's halfway through his life, and it hits him, the realization that he too is going to die. Someday, he too will die. Nichols says this is probably the first recorded example of a midlife crisis. In the second half of his life, he begins to ask the question, what does it all mean? It's the ultimate question that people often ask. Now, of course, for the author of Ecclesiastes, the answer is pretty predictable, as you can imagine. He says, fear God and follow the commandments. Okay, that worked for him, but it was not a very satisfying answer for Nichols, who's a humanist living near the dawn of the 21st century here in the United States. Nichols concludes that what makes life meaningful and worth living is to enjoy the bounty of life that is available to us and to belong to other people. This idea of how we can enjoy the bounty of life that's available to us, that's going to be my subject for an upcoming message. And the reason why is because I've been hearing a lot of people saying things like, how can I have fun when people are dying in Gaza, when people are being racially profiled in the United States, when our democracy is falling apart before my eyes? How dare I enjoy my life? Well, I have an answer for that, because I believe it's really important that we both do our part, but also find ways to really soak in the beauty and the joy and the amazement of this world. So I'm going to focus on that in a couple weeks. But today is about belonging. What does it mean to belong to other people? This question got me to turn to a little book I have by someone named Matthew Tittle. And he was a former Southern Baptist who founded a Unitarian Universalist church a few decades ago. And here's how he describes it. I never had a sense of belonging in a church until my wife Gail and I started to attend Unitarian Universalist congregations some years ago in the Washington, D.C. area. Except for my Southern Baptist teenage years, I was a Christian and Easter churchgoer, and then only when forced. I couldn't put my finger on it, but being in church was profoundly uncomfortable. Gail and I wanted to belong to a caring community, but we just could not bring ourselves to believe in what we heard in so many churches. The people were nice, but the message had no meaning for us. And then one day someone said 7 simple words that changed my life. Have you ever heard of a Unitarian church? This, he explains, is the power of relationships. Something that a person says can make a life-altering difference in the life of someone else. Something you say today might make a profound difference in somebody's life. Now, of course, not every conversation has to be intentionally meaningful and transformative, but every conversation has the potential. Isn't it amazing to think how something that we say could have a life-changing impact on somebody and make their life richer, more whole, more beautiful, more full of love? I remember a conversation that I had right there in the back of this sanctuary about 16 years ago with Gina Pearson. She was the wife of Bishop Carlton Pearson, who was here for many years before he passed. And I was telling Gina how my wife and I were in the process of filling out the paperwork because we were looking to adopt a child. We were hoping to adopt a baby girl. You may know or you may not know that my wife and I, about 19 years ago, we lost a child, a baby girl. And so after a few years, we finally realized, we're ready to, expand our family and our life again. And so one of the pieces of paperwork in the adoption process asks you, what ethnicities and races are you open to adopting? That's a heady question. That really gets you thinking. And so that morning after church, I was explaining this to Gina, and I was asking her, what did she think? She's African American, by the way, for those who don't know her. I was asking her, what do you think? Could Anitra and I raise an African American little girl? What would that be like for her, for us? Gina said many thoughtful things in that conversation, but the one that I remember and will never forget is she said, let me tell you, that girl will have so many aunties and uncles in this church, and we'll show you how to do her hair and all that stuff that you need to know. And so I came home and I explained the conversation to Anitra, and I said, I think we can do this. And so we did. When we filled out the application, we included African American as one of the options of folks who we would be open to adopting. And that brief conversation right there after church changed our lives and our family in the most incredible ways. We now have a 16-year-old beautiful daughter. If you haven't met her, she's amazing, and has just brought so much love and so much into our lives. So we never know what words we share, what little conversation we might have might change a person's life. And that's why I read with some frustration what Matt Tittle described about his first few experiences coming to a Unitarian Universalist church. He said, we could stand around for what seemed like an eternity and never, ever be greeted by anyone. I don't quite understand the phenomenon because we wouldn't have guests in our home without taking the time to greet them personally. And yet, people have a habit of not greeting the people who visit their spiritual home. I think it's even more important to get to know the visitors who come to our church than it is the ones who come to our home. Because how we welcome people at a church will affect whether they become a member of the family and of the community. Now, unless your children are bringing home prospective partners, not very many people visiting your house are considering becoming members of your family. Often first impressions are last impressions because people will not come back to a religious community of any kind if they feel ignored the first time they come. Too much is at stake. Our spiritual and emotional health is something that renders us very vulnerable. And so we protect it at all costs. It takes incredible courage to walk through the doors of a church or a new religious community. It takes courage the first time and perhaps it takes courage every time. Now, when I read this, I was reminded that when somebody does find this community of all souls, and they feel a sense of belonging here, it has a profound impact on the rest of their lives. I mean, I'm not telling most of you something you don't already know. And I know this because I see it happening. When people truly belong here, they make lifelong friends. They grow spiritually, intellectually, emotionally. They discover courage to face the hardest moments of their life. And that's why I sometimes wonder why all of us don't do a better job of inviting people to come check out All Souls. 7 simple words. Have you ever heard of All Souls? Considering what we know about the lifelong transformative impact of being a part of this community, how often do we have a chance to have that profound of an impact on someone's life? Well, we do when we introduce somebody to All Souls, to this community, if it's right for them. And we do it when we're here on a Sunday or any time during the week, and we greet someone who's new or visiting, and we help them feel welcome. So I want to encourage you, every time you're here, when you see someone who you think might be visiting or new or that you haven't met before, introduce yourself. Perhaps, especially if you find out that they're new, invite them to meet you on Wednesday night. Hey, why don't we meet on Wednesday night and have dinner? Or come to this class? Or you want to come and we're going to be filling bags of food to give out to families in our community who are dealing with hunger. Why don't you come to our community resource bank, filling the bags on a Sunday after worship or something like that? Or one of the picnics or events here. Because that simple act could change someone's life in a very meaningful way. As a matter of fact, I know this is a little different for the point, but I just want to invite you. Let's take a moment and greet someone around you. Tell them, welcome home. We're glad you're here. Just stand up and greet somebody. Walk around. Don't be shy. Welcome. Hey, good to have you here. Welcome. How you doing? Great. That was great. See, it wasn't that hard. Come on. So, it's not that hard, right? To introduce yourself. It's kind of fun. Meet some new people. When people first come here, they're wondering, what we're doing. They're like, why do they light a chalice? If it's their first time, if they come to the first service, they're wondering, why do they stand for those who have died? Which is something we do at the 10 o'clock service. Why don't they have any religious symbols in this place, in this sanctuary? Why do they even call it a sanctuary? Why does the choir often sing from the back? Right? It takes time to feel at home in a new place, to understand what's going on, the rhythms. One of the beauties of this place is new people come and they also change the place because it's a living tradition and we're really open. That's how we ended up with a humanist service 10 years ago, was because there were a lot of people saying, hey, I love it here. I love the community. I love what we're doing. I want to be involved. I'm not really into all the prayers and hymns and stuff like that. Is it possible that we could do something? But I love the messages, the inspiration. I want something like that. And so we said, yeah, let's give it a try. And sure enough, people came. And they keep coming. But what also makes a difference, besides making a connection with someone when you first come, is also what makes a big long-term difference is being a part of a community that's open, that's thoughtful, that's honest, and that's caring. Especially the honest. Think about that today with all the alternative facts and this whole, the contest for what's real, what's true, to have a community of people who care about just being honest, even at whatever cost. We're going to talk, we're going to have a real conversation. No one's going to have an agenda trying to make people believe something they don't believe. And that level of honesty in the world today is becoming a rare commodity. And if we find places where people are open to seeking the truth in love, as we say, we need to support those places and be around them as much as we can. So it's great to have a place like this on a good day, but when things are challenging, which they always, at some point in our lives, things become challenging, to belong to a community like this really matters. I mean, I get the calls. My sister just died. I'm not sure what to do. My child just died. My mother. I just found out I have cancer. I just moved to Tulsa. I don't know anybody. I just got accepted into a doctoral program and I'm not even sure I can handle it. I just got a new job. I got pregnant. I got married. I got robbed. I just came out to myself and I'm trying to build up the courage to come out to my family and my neighbors and my coworkers. And I get to say, you're not alone. We'll walk with you. And we're glad and proud to walk with you. We're in this together. You're not alone. I'm not alone. When that stuff happened with my daughter I mentioned earlier, I was not alone. I had this whole community supporting us. I don't know how I would have gotten through it. We're not alone in this big, fierce, and beautiful, complicated, and awesome world. You have a community. You belong. Your life matters. And that's why Nichols finally comes around in his wrestling with the words and the questions that show up in this pessimistic text of Ecclesiastes. And he says, we're made to belong to other people, that we may protect, serve, and enrich their lives and our own. We are made to enjoy the bounty of this world. He says, do good work, belong to other people. Everything else is vain, vanity of vanities. And Tittle says something similar. He says, I don't believe that we can lead completely fulfilled lives without being in intimate and ultimate relationship with others. And it's beautiful if those others, it's an intergenerational community that includes little kids and elders and everything in between. Because we learn so much from each other across the generations. What I know is that this is a place where you can heal and you can find new and healthy relationships. You can learn how to love and receive love in the midst of everything else that's happening. I imagine there are other places where you can do it. I just know that it happens here. And in the end, Matthew Tittle becomes a Unitarian Universalist minister. And in his book, he says, all we ask are three things. Bring forth your best self. Support this communal life that we are creating together in this place. And act on your conscience in the broader community and world. Three things. Bring out your best, support the community, and act on your conscience in the world. And what we offer in return is mutual support, love, and caring, and a place to belong. A beloved community. I want to just end with a story from a friend and colleague of mine, Dr. Tandeka. She's an amazing person. She's been here before a few times. She writes, several years ago, I spent an evening discussing covenant groups with members of a congregation who were interested in starting a small group program. At the end of my remarks, one of the most respected elder statesmen of the community stood up and slowly walked to the front of the assembly. He faced his fellow congregants and he said he had wanted something like this for years because he was lonely. Waves of shock rolled through the gathering. How could he be lonely? He was revered and beloved member of this congregation, a pillar of their community. He went on, saying, my social upbringing has taught me not to talk about my feelings with anyone but my wife. And consequently, he confessed, I don't have any real friends. She goes on, something happened to me as he spoke. I felt the man's vulnerability. His heart spoke the hidden language of my own heart, loneliness. My own social upbringing had taught me not to talk about my feelings, to be emotionally invulnerable, closed to others. His story was my story. My story was his story. Here in the midst of this community, someone so much like myself had stepped forward and said simply and honestly, I'm lonely. And now all of us in the room were in the presence of an open space, an opened heart, a change of heart. Together, we loved this man beyond belief. Beyond, that is, our own mistaken ideas and thoughts about who we believed he was. Friends, belonging to one another means we are always building our beloved community, welcoming new people to join, and welcoming each other to step forward and be more authentically ourselves. We just get one chance at this life, at least this go around. I know there's some Buddhists out there, so I don't. And so why not live it as authentically as we can? Outside of everyone else's agendas about what we're supposed to believe or how we're supposed to act or what we're supposed to do with our lives. Be free. Be me. It's a beautiful thing. And to be doing it in community makes all the difference. It's not about being selfish, individualistic people. It's about being fully myself in community and belonging to others and making a place like this available to our children who must be really confused right now growing up in this country, in this time. They need a place. They need the adults to show up and be the adults. And so we have this place. And it's a lot easier to be authentic when you feel like you belong and you have a place that you belong. Remember, the spirit of this community is love. Remember that with a searching glance, a generous smile, a thoughtful word, we are always building our beloved community. And through our covenant, we belong to one another. Welcome home. I love you.